Hello and welcome to St Michael's Hill for what is the July layout update. It's been a fair bit going on this month, so without any further ado I will show you what I've been up to. The first job this month was to finish the Fiddle Yard, which meant completing the lift out section. As you can see, there's a fair bit of point work on there, so it goes down from 5 lanes at one end of the lift out section to 2, and then off of the side there. Quite happy with how all these joints have gone on. They're all running quite smoothly, and that's all kind of good really. They look a little bit messy, but at the moment they certainly work. Curves are pretty close together over here, and whilst you can fit 2 Mark IIIs round without them touching, it's very close. So what I might end up doing, depending on how it goes, is maybe slightly change the radius of the outside curve, which won't be too much of a problem. There's a fair bit of room up here, just kind of plenty of room at the back really, so just to give it a little bit more room, so I might give that a go. At the moment there's still nothing to really lock the lift out section in place. Obviously it holds perfectly fine, but lining up the tracks at the moment is a fairly kind of manual process. So what I'll probably end up doing is fitting some kind of bolts or something in place to kind of just hold it all in the same place every single time. And at that point, if I do want to re-look at these joints, I can do that. But that's a job for another day if it's required. But all of the joining sections are fairly smooth. They fit quite nicely, so quite pleased with how all that's come together really. So from the Fiddle Yard, we come out to the scenic section, which will probably start where the board is here, maybe just a little bit beyond. The track has obviously been laid with sleeper spacing in mind. The track has been fixed down with copy decks, although there are certain sleepers that are kind of held with super glue, just to get the alignment right. So generally the ones at the end are held with super glue, and then copy decks for the rest. And then if there's a few that move around or aren't quite in the right place, it's easy enough to just kind of loosen them up. Then use maybe a slightly stronger glue to get them all in position, ready for when it gets around to ballasting. Again, I've kind of added dropper wires, but we're not all wired up yet. That will probably be the next job once all the track is in. The cork that the track is laid on is the same as in the Fiddle Yard, so a 4mm cork bed, which is hopefully going to give a nice ballast shoulder once that's done. I'll actually show you something that I've been working on in terms of how it will look in the scenic section in a minute. But yeah, as you can see, the cork goes all the way around and down right round to the other side of the layout. This corner here will have super elevation, so I've started here with kind of 0.2mm plasticard, then it goes up, we've got 0.5mm, and there's 1mm, and then on top of that we can place other things. So the max height will probably be around 1.5mm. Just feels about right. The curve here is a little bit kind of steeper, but this will generally be blocked by scenery. The main curve that I think it will look very nice is coming out of here, which is a lot more of a gentle one. So the super elevation will go in there. There are going to be a little bit through here, which is going to be the station area. You can see here there's a piece that's up to 1mm, just to give it a light kind of go. The straight sections, so say, aren't straight at all. I'll actually show you a different view of that in a minute, but you'll see that the straight along the back's got a little bit of a sweeping kind of curve to it, which will keep things looking fairly natural. And then probably around where that point is, it'll be the edge of the kind of scenic section that is on display. If I use a pencil to kind of demonstrate, there'll be probably a road bridge going across kind of there, so everything beyond that will be kind of hidden. And then there's some kind of fairly kind of tight curves. They're all, well, the two at the back are certainly third radius or above. The one round the corner is somewhere between second and third, but everything seems to run on it fairly well, and obviously it won't be seen at all. I've tested basically trains coming through the point work, so you can come from one of these lines here and then out and around. There's no problems with any derailing of any kind at the moment, so that's not a problem. There are kind of other options available if I kind of need to change things. I could use a slightly different point in there to give myself a little bit more room, but it should be fine. Once the track kind of ends here, this is kind of the standard sleeper spacing. From here I'll do the sleeper spacing as has been done with this section of track here, obviously using a bullhead point to exit the depot. That's not actually fixed in place yet, although that's kind of where it will go. Hole has been drilled for the point motor, but that's not in place, so that won't be there. The track then kind of comes through. This will be the branch line station. The station, sorry, will be in the middle. This will be the branch line that goes off of it, and it then runs down to the join up with the main lines. The track in the middle is going to be the bi-directional line, so things will be coming both ways along here on a fairly regular basis, depending on where the final destination would be. Despite the track going round the corner this way, the model will kind of imagine that there's actually a fork here, so two tracks would be going this way and two would be going off towards where the garage door hinges. So different routes coming down will take different paths through the station. I'm fairly pleased with how it's all coming together. The station line is coming down fairly quickly, almost at the next point there. The rest of the track hopefully will be laid now within the next month. I've already done the spacing of the sleepers, so once the cork's dry, you can see the pins are still in it where it's recently been laid. It'll be a case of getting it down. It shouldn't take too long to do from that point. There's only going to be 3 turnouts in this section, which are all up here, so there'll be bullhead one that's roughly in that position, although obviously needs to be adjusted slightly. And then beyond that there'll be another right hand one and a curve point at the top. Hopefully we should get quite a nice flow through that section. When it comes to the next stages, I'll give it all a paint, and I might actually remove this top deck that's currently being used as a little bit of a storage space, just to give me a little bit of better access to the back there. It's not out of reach by any kind of stretch of the imagination. It's, you know, hand's length, but if I can get up through it, it's not so much of a problem here. I can easily get my head through the section here, but maybe up there I'll just remove it a little bit and get the paint in. But that should be kind of the next thing to do in the next month, and then it'll be a case of wiring everything up and basically then testing absolutely everything, all the lines, all the routes, to make sure that there's basically clean running. I don't want to get to a point where everything looks great but doesn't run well, so it'll be test again, and we'll go from there. As I'm laying it, I'm testing it with various vehicles kind of just by hand, but it's obviously a little bit different when it comes to running things kind of under their own steam, so to speak. As well as starting to lay the track in the scenic area, I've also started to do a few tests on how it will end up looking once it's been ballasted and weathered. This I guess little test piece is probably the piece I'm happiest with and looks closest to the prototype pictures that I've been looking at for the time. The ballast is a sieved calcium sand, which is available through kind of pet stores, and that has been used with a little bit of Woodland Scenics light grey fine that's also been sieved. Wouldn't mind getting it a little bit smaller, so I'm going to see if I can find a slightly finer sieve, but in reality it's probably about right and looks you know, very, very passable. I'm very, very happy with it. Before the ballast went down, I sprayed the sleepers with a bit of Plasticoat suede and then weathered them with various colours with the dry brushing technique. So there's kind of some darker colours and lighter greys. I've also used a bit of speckling to get a few of the kind of smaller spots of colour on there. So very happy with how that's looking. Then the ballast is applied, and then I use acrylic washes that then go on top of that. So I've used some kind of dark greys and some browns to get a kind of colour that I'm very happy with. This is very much following the techniques that I picked up from Mike Buick and Tim Cooper and people who've been doing weathering in this kind of way for a while now. So certainly no new ideas here, but yeah, certainly great help to those guys, both of which have given me kind of advice as it's been going on. So hopefully once the track is all laid in the scenic section, I'll obviously have to test it, make sure that it's working kind of electronically and that it's all controllable in the right way and the wiring's all correct. But once all that's done, I'll get on with the ballasting. The job of painting the sleepers and rails, in theory, probably can be done straight away. There's no real disadvantage if I have to move any of the track or take anything up for wiring. That a bit of colour on the track shouldn't be a problem as long as the ballast isn't done, but the ballasting will certainly come a long way down the line once the other elements of the track operation have been kind of set up and secured. But hopefully this is going to be what it looks like in the end. As well as this, I've started to build some of the track side detailing that will go alongside the track once it's built. So I've got some cable trunking that is from scale model scenery. It's been put together but still needs to be painted. Again, I'll probably hit it with some Plasticoat suede. I've done a little tester again. So you can see there's a slight difference. It just makes it look a little bit more, I guess, concretey, but it certainly needs some kind of dry brush weathering as well to kind of bring out some more of the tones that you see on the railway. As well as these, I've built some catch pits. So probably not actually enough room on this little test board, but kind of shows you where it's going. These again are a scale model scenery item, very easy to go together. The top has been sprayed with a grey, and at the moment the bottom has been just given a little bit of Plasticoat suede, but again it still needs to be painted and weathered really. Both of these items are quite a lot of fun to build, a little bit fiddly, but I think they kind of do the job really well, and obviously a railway doesn't look right without all of this paraphernalia alongside it. There's going to be a lot more to go along. I've got to build a lot more of each of these. The catch pits generally I think were every 30 meters, so kind of works out that I'll need a fair few around here, and cable trunking when it comes to both sides of the railway, it's going to need a lot of packs, but they're quite, once you pick it up, quite mindless to build, easy to sit in front of the TV and get on with those. So that's something I'm going to do. I'm not sure, I need to really look into it a little bit more, but potentially I'm going to be able to mount the catch pits on a little bit of cork the same height as the rails. I need to check really whether the catch pits are at the same level as the rail or below it. Probably going to be below it, to be honest, like that. So either way we can kind of go from there. But the other thing I have kind of done is, at least with these templates, whilst I'm building them, I can just kind of mark out where each of them is going to be along the railway, and it should make kind of scenic work a little bit easier. If I have to start on there, I can just get a better idea of what it's going to look like. As I've said many times before on this channel, Great Western, the first privatised livery, is one of my favourites behind Intercity Swallow. They both run together, and I think in my last video I showed that the train, or the high-speed train that I'd assembled, was kind of a bit of a mixed rake, and that quite often happened. But I would like the ability to run an HST in full Intercity Swallow and full in Great Western, which I guess by just sheer definition would mean I'd be able to run two full HSTs, either completely separated or mixed, as would all have been the case around the time that I'll be modelling. The Intercity Swallow is a fairly easy thing to do. Hornby seem to be releasing the Intercity Power cars on a fairly regular basis, and whilst some might need alterations to be fully correct, a lot of that is minor work. The coaching stock is again freely available, and Hornby are also releasing later in this year a new kind of running of the Mark IIIs and the Swallow livery. So it's not a massive problem. Great Western HST is a little bit more difficult. This power car is a part of a set that has been resprayed, and these have been done to an okay standard. The livery's generally well applied, there's not too much overspray or anything, but there's a big problem when it comes to colours. There's a few minor details that are wrong. The kind of warning yellow shape is not quite correct, but it's not the end of the world. At least the power cars have been, modelled correctly. The back window that you sometimes see has been filled, which is correct for this prototype. But the biggest problem I have is that the colours don't match the stock that I've got. I've picked up over the years a full rake of the Merlin liveried Mark IIIs that were made by Lima. There's a fair bit that's wrong with this tooling, but ultimately the shape of them is pretty damn good, and all the rest of it can be pretty much fixed, and I pretty much intend to do it, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what would need to be done. But as you can probably see straight away in the video on screen, the green is certainly not the same, and the white is not the same either. I spoke to a few people about this, and they've kind of said, look, the varnish might have changed the kind of colour, the way it was done, how it was applied, or alternatively, the paint might not have just been right to start with. So I have basically two options if I want to run a full HST in this livery and have it done in a way that isn't going to be too different. Ultimately, for me, the colours, they're just too different. If I kind of bring that along a little bit and kind of show you, not the best, I'll bring in one with at least some bogies on. You can see straight away there's a big difference and it doesn't look right. So I have two options. First of all is to have these resprayed HSTs completely resprayed again, in the hope that whoever does it, do a slightly better job, really bring it up to kind of standard, but also get that colour correct. So that is one option that I'm looking into. These are actually going to be sent off tomorrow, just along with a coach, and just to see if a resprayer who is very good can match those colours and is happy to take on the job. And if he is, then that is certainly one way to go, and it's my preferred choice because the model of the power car is generally a good one by all accounts from Hornby, and I think a lot of the detail is already there, and importantly the motor is inside and is a good motor that can certainly pull a full rake, and I know that this one works and does do that. So that is option one. Option two is to use the Lima power cars, which are the correct colours because they were from the same batch and set, and basically improve them. Visually, there's certainly things that can be done. The tooling is actually pretty good. The levels of detail, they're not a million miles away. If I bring this other one in and we can have a look at the roof, but it's obviously the colours are a little bit different, but the detail isn't too bad. It's not too bad at all, and little bits can be done to kind of improve that, whether it be painting it, maybe you could scratch build the vents, although one is shown in an open position and the other is shown in a closed position, so they're not even wrong as such, they look different. The exhaust deflector is finer on the Hornby one, but it's not a million miles away. The light cluster is wrong, but as you can see it pops right out, so with a simple painting of the inside black and painting that grille, it looks a lot better. The yellow warning, as you can see, the shape is correct. This is what it should look like on the left hand side, so that can be done. It's slightly, you can see that there's a definite line through there, which is odd because I'm not sure how that's even happened, but I can mask that off and basically give that a quick blast of some warning yellow and get that looking okay. The bigger problem for me comes in that the motor's not as good and the lighting isn't as good or at all. So the power car, this is the dummy one, has a light, but it's only forwards. But if I look into ways to get that lighting implemented, you can see that the lighting cluster actually has 3 light tubes. I'm not sure whether maybe with fibre optics you could kind of make that work. And then in terms of a motor, there's a couple of options. The first option, and certainly the cheapest option for me, as I've already spent the money, is to use a CD motor conversion kit. These are available from Strathpeffer Junction, and I've already used one on a Lima Class 47, and I know they work, and I know that they're pretty powerful. So that is certainly one option in terms of getting the motor complete. The other option is that I believe that the latest Hornby Railroad HST, the one that's used on the Great Western Railway HST starter set, uses the Lima tooling but has a DCC compatible motor, so I could easily plug it straight in, but I assume it's a slightly better motor. The thing I'm not sure about, the wheels on these are slightly smaller. The Lima stock always had slightly smaller wheels. I'm not sure whether the new Hornby version has the same Lima wheels or they've improved those as well. If anyone knows, it would be great for you to pop in the comments below. That would be a very useful thing to know. So that would be the other option, is to get hold of a couple of those power cars and use them that way. There is another option where I could kind of combine both methods really and have the pick up the railroad ones, use one for the motor and use the power car from this set to install the CD motor, put chips in both of them and then basically run them in consist, which I think iTrain will allow me to do fairly easily once both have been formatted properly with speed steps. Should be very easy then just to match whatever speeds they are, just to kind of run them together. So that's certainly another option. And to be honest, there's almost nothing to lose by, if I do go along the Hornby Railroad route, by doing the CD upgrade as well to have both power cars powered. So that's basically the options I'm looking at. It just then comes down to lighting and coupling as well. When it comes to the Mark IIIs, like I said, the shape of them is generally very good and potentially better than the Hornby ones or the Oxford Rail ones. They just seem to kind of capture the Mark III quite nicely. The only problem is that the glazing's not very good, the interiors aren't very detailed, there's no couplings that are NEM supported, and the bogies are kind of lacking in a couple of ways. But all of this is kind of, you can get around it all. The first thing is I'm going to be changing up the glazing by using some extreme etchings from Laser Glaze, and these basically slot straight into where the windows are. The way that these are kind of they go together make an absolute pain getting them out, and getting them out of the Mark IIIs is a real pain, but I've managed to do that. And then basically you remove the glazing section, leaving a small section there just to hold inside the coach, and then you can slot the laser glaze in. The other thing I'll be doing is looking at the bogies, changing the wheel sets there. Like I mentioned with the power cars, they're slightly too small, so I'll just slot in some Hornby ones, and to go with that I'll be using some of the Stenson models laser disc brakes that fit nicely within inside them, just to give a bit more realism. I'm also having some 3D printed parts cut for some detailing, so hopefully I'll be able to give you some more update on that when it comes to the video putting these together. Finally, the interiors have been already painted from the kind of orange that they were to a kind of more of a beige, which is a lot more of a similar colour than what was with the prototype. These need further detailing with some green seats, and then people will be placed in them. The final thing I need to look at is coupling. There's kind of a couple of options with this. The first of which is to mount an NEM pocket directly to somewhere on here, or indeed the bottom of the coach, as probably are on the prototypes. The other option is someone that I speak to online is looking into a 3D printed solution for this. So hopefully, like I said, when I come to doing the full video on this conversion, I'll go into detail with all of this, but I should have all the parts, and by then I should end up with a full HST that I can be proud of. So that's a lot of the work I've been doing this month away from the garage is this sort of stuff. So there we go, that's it for the July update. There's been no new stock this month at all. Maybe there will be a couple of pre-orders that will be landing in the next few weeks, so possibly in the August update there will be some. But that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully I'll get a fair bit done next month, and maybe there'll be a full loop of track and possibly even some trains running. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon on St Michael's Hill. Bye bye.